discussing their like versatility and how good I think they are on this handy dandy tier list, which is super original, super great. Even me talking about how super original and super great it is super original. Besides the point. Anyways, what I have in front of me is about a 24 different tech options I could think of that are supposed to boost or help Skull Servants achieve their end goal of swinging in face for 8k damage and winning on one turn. This video isn't going to be scripted or anything, so I might have a little couple jump cuts here and there. If you notice any of that, who cares, you know? Anyways, to start off with, I'd like to kick things off by just taking that grass looks greener, bumping it up to S tier, cause it's grass. I mean, grass, it mills 20 cards. If you dump this into like a Skull Servant engine, you're gonna be having an 8k king for basically free. However, I don't think grass is necessary. I mean, it's good, but in a 60 card deck, your odds of drawing it are, I think, 30 in the opening hand, 30%. So it's good, but it's not consistent. And it can't really, it helps to obviously make a big king, but I think if you have an optimized 40 card king deck list, you can make an 8k king turn one fairly consistently. And grass is cool and flashy, but I understand why it was banned. And I mean, I still think it's good, but definitely not necessary. Anyways, second card up is this little one right here called Ghost Meets Girl, a Shiranui Story. So what it does is you discard one card from your hand and then special summon a Shiranui monster from your deck. But you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except for zombie monsters. Kind of like Glow Up Bloom. So what this is used for is to go into Shiranui Solitaire here. And this is great because it gets you into uni-zombie. Uni-zombie is just like a powerhouse of the deck. But this one in particular is fine. I mean, as far as Shiranui and uni-zombie go, you max out at 6 of them. And I mean, you generally don't really need more than that. But if you want to load your graveyard, I think this is a really good card because it gets you the discard, it gets you the Shiranui and the uni-zombie on field. So I mean, it's definitely B tier because it takes up deck slots and locks you in the zombies before you can do anything else, which is, But anyways, now we have a funny tier. We have, I'm going to put 2 here actually, Shooting Starbow Seal, or Ciel, and Optic Camouflage Armor. They both basically accomplish the same thing. However, Shooting Starbow Seal, what it does is you equip it to King, obviously, and he loses 1,000 attack, but can attack directly. That sounds great, right? This one, Optic Camouflage Armor, it says you equip it to King, and you can only equip it to a level 1 monster, which King is, and then he can attack directly. However, one thing you need to consider is if Lady in White is on field, all level 3 or lower zombie monsters are unaffected by spell effects. So this actually turns both of these off. If you did link off Lady for, one of the next 2 things we're going to be talking about here, then this is very good because it does let you swing for 8k face, and that is an instant OTK, basically. Next up, Avendroid Savior. This guy is fantastic. That is instant A tier. I think on most average boards, you'll be ending on at least 2 extra zombies. You'll have a lady and a uni-zombie that's left over if you couldn't do anything with that. So you just go into Avendroid, and if you're going turn 2, he lets you dump even more into the grave. So if you couldn't get off all the Skull Servant cards into the grave, you can definitely do them now. His effect won't be decreasing that much attack if you're sending White Baking or anything, but White Baking will be increasing King's attack by at least 3,000, if not 4,000. Really good card. I run this all the time. It's great. Next up, we have one card called Gozuki. This card, I think MBT said it himself, is doing a really good uni-zombie impression, but I think generally, after playing a lot of mono zombie, I've realized it's good, but in Skull Servants, it's not really that good because you have to banish a lot, and Skull Servants really, really want to be in the graveyard. So I think Gozuki's really copium, honestly, because it takes up your normal summon, which Shiranui and uni-zombie already really want to do. And if you have Ghost Meets Girl, then you already have another confirmed Shiranui in your hand. So Gozuki's fine, but more optimal in a pure zombie deck. Now, so for this one, I'm really pushing the boundary of what a tech card is. but I think 1-for-1 is obviously S tier. It gets you the free discard to plug anything into your graveyard, and the free special of a level 1, which is almost always white baking. But in some circumstances, you discard white baking to summon white prince. And I mean, same thing. You end off with all of your white princes in grave, implying you're running the optimal numbers, by the way. 2 white prince. No, 3 white prince, 3 white baking, but only 2 of the vanillas. That's optimal. That's great. Anyways, 1-for-1, perfect. It gets you a free relinquished anima, maybe a free link. Anima is great because you can really punish your opponent for playing inoptimally. But I mean, like, who's playing around anima, you know, right? So they put their boss monster in the middle left column or whatever. I mean, funny moment. You can also go into Link Karibo or something, but same difference. Or you can save it for Avendroid Savior, but they all mean the same thing. Next up, Jackabolin. I think Jackabolin is it's like a secret card. I rarely see this card be brought up. I saw it one time on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. I think it's really underrated how you can discard to get the free special summon, and on your opponent's turn, it banishes itself to summon a zombie, which is then banished every time it leaves the field. But it's good sometimes, you know? Because if you draw, like, a lady or a vanilla skull servant, you don't really want to discard that from your hand. You want to discard it off of white prince or white baking. And it's good, but I think it's more good in pure zombie. But yeah. Next up we have Allure of Darkness, which is really hit or miss. I mean, I have greeted off Allure so many times, and I've been punished for it every single time, because I think the most optimal thing you want to banish from your hand in Skull Servants is King, and you only really want to run 2 King. But I mean, Allure of Darkness is good, you get the draw 2, but like, you don't really want to banish anything in your hand unless you draw into a wightmare, and you will be drawing into wightmare sometimes to get the free special summon. But wightmare really wants to come at your end of a white baking combo after you've banished everything, which actually, after I put this in, it's like B+ or something, you know? It's not bad, but it's not good. At the end of a white baking combo, when you banish white prince, skull servant, and lady to bring out king, you're gonna have 3 in the banish zone, and that's gonna neg king by 3k, which is not optimal. So what logically you'd think is, well, burial from a different dimension, right? You take this guy, you pop all of them back into the graveyard, but the problem with that is, off white baking, you'll be grabbing white prince and white mare. White mare effect is to target a banished skull servant or lady in white or king and special summon it or return it to the graveyard. But if you take a burial from a different dimension and return them all to the graveyard, then you don't get any of the value off of white mare and you just have a dead card in your hand. I mean, you can add a white prince off of white baking, but white prince is less than optimal these days, which is why I've added it to the tech roster, because it's really just a weird, like, honest effect, I guess, which doesn't work on link monsters. It's less than optimal. So burial, it's fine. I mean, it's like a, you know, it's here-ish. However, card destruction, this is a good card. I'd say the only downside of card destruction is that you can get ashed. And if they're wasting an ash on card destruction, that frees it up for uni-zombie. Anyways, card destruction, perfect card. Discard 5. I mean, the only time it's bad is if you draw a lady or a skull servant, which is less than ideal. But if you have something like a white baking or a white prince in hand, that kind of goes crazy. It's literally just free advantage. You draw 5, then it's -1 in card advantage, but sometimes when you discard, like, the perfect hand, if you have a Mizuki in hand, speaking of which, Mizuki, if you have a Mizuki in hand, that's just free advantage. But Mizuki, he's fine. I mean, there's rarely any time you can put him in the graveyard with uni-zombie, because you'll be discarding him from hand more than often. You'll be sending him to the deck. The only time you would do this is if you somehow already resolved both white princes and a white baking this turn and had room for uni-zombie left, which doesn't happen often. but he is good to have in the graveyard because you're not always going to be drawing Monster Reborn. So it's nice to have the option to uni-zombie to get the king back if he does get destroyed. So I can see why this is good, but it's less than it could be, you know? Next up, Vampire Sucker. This card wants to be the Link 2 that Avendroid Savior is, but isn't. It's fine. It gets your opponent a monster back, but makes it a zombie, which has some applications in the Rivalry Zombie lock, but other than that, you're just getting one card draw, which can be life-saving sometimes, but other times it's just not helpful, you know? Most times it's better to just dump from deck with Avendroid. So, C tier. That's what I'm thinking. The Danger Package. I don't like this. I think it's really risky to randomly discard something from your hand. I mean, you get good advantage off the danger cards, but it's more ideal to have a focused send from deck strategy with Skull Servants. But I can see why they're used, but I just don't like them. They don't give you the same kind of advantage that mono Skull Servants do. I think it's a different kind of deck. Armageddon Knight, again, best Gozuki impression, which is bad because Gozuki is definitely trying to beat uni-zombie so bad. So Armageddon Knight takes up your normal summon and only sends one thing. No, I know that's not as useful as uni-zombie. He's not even a tuner. He's not a zombie as far as I know. Hold on, let me check this. No, he's a warrior. Okay, that's not helpful. Armageddon Knight, poop, stinky, fart. Nobody likes him. Same thing with Where Art Thou. You have to already control a level 1 monster, so the ideal setup for this would be normal summon wightprince, which is kind of gross. I don't know why you'd want to do that. And then all you get is another level 1, which you can't really do anything with. No, poop stink. However, zombie package, actually hold on, before we talk about the zombie package, zombie world is fine. Doesn't really add anything to the Skull Servant strategy. It sometimes has applications with the zombie rivalry lock, but other than that, it kind of messes with your opponent sometimes. Tri Brigade, BTFO, but it doesn't really help Skull Servants at all. The zombie package itself, so Ballardrock, Blow Up Bloom, and Necroworld Banshee. This is good sometimes if you can get all of the things into the grave, as well as having some uni-zombie left. However, it does require that you play Zombie World, which is less than adequate in Skull Servants. So it requires you to take up 6 deck slots for something that doesn't really have much of a payoff, but it can be good sometimes. At that point, just play zombies, I think. Okay, so this one's gonna ruffle some feathers. White Princess is she's a Skull Servant technically, yeah, but like she's not a really good one. She sends herself from hand, and on normal summon, she mills a White Prince, which is good, but she's really competing with a lot of other normal summons here that just aren't that good, honestly. And she doesn't really add too much. There's a crazy loop you can do with Mizuki and White Prince to get a 8k king turn 1, or even higher than 8k, I'm pretty sure. But besides that one niche, hard to pull off combo, she is not very good. She's the other target to add off White Baking besides White Prince or Wightmare, but she doesn't really bring much these days. Okay, so try White. This is the really bad card. I don't know why you'd ever want to run 3 normal Skull Servants in your deck, and I don't really see you sending them all to the graveyard that often, and I don't really know what kind of advantage you could get off of summoning all 3 from the graveyard. You could technically go for a really good Link 2 like Avendroid right there, or a good Link 3 like Nightmare Unicorn somehow, but other than that, gross card. It requires that you play 2 vanillas and or 3. It requires that you play 3 vanillas and less than adequate. Needlebug Nest is kind of quirky tech, though. If you're playing the 60 card grass deck, this is good because it lets you just sort through your deck a little faster. And once you're at 60 cards, I mean, you really need to do that. But Needlebug Nest was how I started playing Skull Servants because I couldn't afford any of the better cards. And it holds a fond place in my heart. I mean, I always used to mill like Monster Reborn and all of my powerful spells instead of what I actually wanted. But I think it sits solidly at B tier for sometimes hitting that crazy Mizuki white baking wightprince, you know? Lastly, the last two, they're basically the same monster, but I think uni-zombie is A tier or S tier, sorry. Free discard, gives yourself a tuner with modular levels. Foolish burial. This card just does everything, honestly. It is the focal point for the entire deck. And I think Solitaire is a great means of getting the uni-zombie because the only issue that Solitaire has over uni-zombie is that it can be ashed. And it tributes itself for cost. So if you tribute the Solitaire and then get ashed, you have an empty field. And Skull Servants are horrible if you can't do anything after the normal summon. So Solitaire sits at A while Uni-Zombie sits at S because they can ash the second effect to Foolish Burial the Uni-Zombie, but they can't really do anything about the discard. So if you have something worth discarding, it's pretty good. But besides that, that's been all the Skull Servant tech I can think of. And rank, up at S tier, we have these four. A blah 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 blah. You know what I mean. Subscribe for more, I guess. I don't know. Long live Skull Servants, baby. And oh God, this talking shit is so hard. I gotta use so much of my brain. Ugh.